السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. قال الله تعالى في شان حبيبي: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا مولانا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه دائما أبدا. صلاة وسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Last time we talked about Ibrahim al-Islam as well as Ismail al-Islam and the construction of the Kaaba. And again, very important point to understand is that when they made the dua, they asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send a messenger who would rehearse the signs or recite the verses to them, and then teach them the book and the wisdom, and then sanctify them. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted the dua, He accepted it in a different order. So first was, of course, reciting the verses, then sanctifying them or purifying them, and then teaching them the book and the wisdom. Because putting something pure into something that's filthy, all you've accomplished is creating more filth. And so, when the heart is purified, then it's easy to understand and accept and to apply the book and the wisdom. Whereas if the heart is not purified, then there is no application that's correct. And again, this is one of the things that we see in the ummah today. That the adab, the respect, the love, and just the character that should be built before all of the other things are taught. When it's not done initially, then you see people that they may be scholars superficially, but when you look at their character, they have none, or at least nothing decent. Their whole character is flawed, and these are the people that they may be hafiz or alim or this, and yet they're doing all these other bad things and ruining the name of scholars that are decent. And so and tazkiyah, the basis of tazkiyah, of purification, is the love of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam above everything else. And we need to keep this in mind. I'm going to go from here and kind of shift back now to what we had talked about a couple of times before, or mentioned, is where Ishaq al-Islam is born. Again, Ismail al-Islam is roughly about either 11 or 13 years older than Ishaq al-Islam. So Ishaq al-Islam, Ibrahim al-Islam has no child with his wife Sarah. And both of them are extremely old in age. And basically at a point where you kind of give up. You still make the dua, but you've given up. And so at this point, if you remember, when Ibrahim al-Islam left the kingdom of Namrud, he left with his nephew Lut al-Islam. And Lut al-Islam had been sent to Sodom and Gomorrah, which many people think is an area that was close to what is known as the Dead Sea today. And the people there were very immoral. They were committing abominations that had never been done before. And just very indecent, and I'm not going to go into the details of what they were doing, but many things that are happening in society today is exactly what they were doing. Man marrying a man and all these other things. And so Lut al-Islam was sent to them. He was not from them, but that's where he was sent. And so He preached to them for a long time with no response or no positive response. All the responses were negative. All they would do is ridicule him, scorn him, threaten him, and everything else they could do against him. And yet because of Allah's order, he continued to preach to them in a very beautiful way. And so eventually the situation got to the point where the command came now for the destruction of these people. They were given every opportunity to change their ways, to do what's right, and they went against that every time. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent 2 angels. But before they go and do what they're supposed to do to the people, or warn Lut al-Islam and tell him to get out, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders these angels to stop by the house of Ibrahim al-Islam. And Ibrahim al-Islam is in Canaan with his wife Sarah, and he had not eaten for 7 days. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not take account of the food that you eat with your guest. And so the practice of Ibrahim al-Islam was that he would not eat unless they were a guest. So for 7 days he had not eaten. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders these angels to stop by there so that his friend will eat. So they come there in the form of young, handsome men. And when Ibrahim al-Islam, he sees them coming, he says, guest. So he has a calf and he slaughters the calf. And he roasts it and he presents it in front of them, and they don't extend their hand to eat, because these are angels, so they don't need to eat. There is a difference in not needing to eat and not eating, and this is important to remember. And when we talk about harut and marut, we will see that distinction. Just because someone doesn't need to eat doesn't mean they don't eat. And so these angels, being angels, not used to eating, so they don't extend their hand. And so now Ibrahim al-Islam, he says that, why aren't you eating? Because, guests who have come, and if you're not extending the hand, then that usually means that they have a bad intention. So he said, I fear, why aren't you eating? So they said, don't fear us. We are sent by Allah, and we have brought you glad tidings of a son, Ishaq. But they also gave glad tidings of a grandson, Yaqub al-Islam. And this again is an important point to understand, that they gave glad tidings of not only Ishaq al-Islam, but they also gave glad tidings that that son would have a son, Yaqub. And that these will be prophets, and they will be righteous. So not only are we giving you the glad tidings of a son, but a righteous son who will be a prophet. Who will also have a son who will be a righteous son who will also be a prophet. And so when they said this, Sarah al-Islam, she laughed, and kind of in amazement. And Ibrahim al-Islam also, he says that how can we have a son? We are old, and she says the same thing. How can we have a son? We're so old. And of course, they say, do you question the authority or the power of Allah? And they said, no, we don't question that. They say Allah is everything is easy. And so over time, of course, over the next few months, then Ishaq al-Islam is born. And I'll come back to this in a little bit. From here, these 2 angels, they go to Lut al-Islam. While in the house of Ibrahim al-Islam, they told Ibrahim al-Islam that we have come, to destroy the people of Lut, and we will save him and his family except for his wife. And so, because she will be with the evildoers. And Ibrahim al-Islam starts, after, he's talking to them, he starts arguing in favor of the people of Lut, and not so much arguing, but he's placing an argument in their favor, trying to get the angels and get Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hold off on this punishment, and because this is the heart of Ibrahim al-Islam, he's very compassionate. So even though these people deserve this punishment, yet he's still pleading their case before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and trying to delay this punishment by continuing to talk to the angels and or delay them from going and fulfilling their task of punishing these people. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commends Ibrahim alayhi salam for this, because he says how compassionate he is. Eventually the angels leave and they come to the house of Lut alayhi salam. Again, they come in the form of young, handsome men. They enter his house, and they start talking to Lut alayhi salam and telling him, why they're there. Again, Lut alayhi salam also questions, who they are. People get confused here, that, well, why didn't Ibrahim alayhi salam know that they were angels? Or why didn't Lut alayhi salam know that they were angels? If they're prophets and they are given the knowledge of the unseen, then why didn't they know? Because all the prophets are given knowledge of the unseen. But they're given knowledge of the unseen according to their jurisdiction. Lut alayhi salam was sent to his people. Ibrahim alayhi salam was sent to people. So their jurisdiction was limited. Whereas the jurisdiction of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is unlimited. All of creation is under his jurisdiction. And so, even within the knowledge of the unseen, you have different levels. Of course, you can't compare anything to the knowledge of Allah. Even though we draw analogies simply to make people understand, just like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam drew an analogy of the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 70 times greater than the love of a mother. Not because of the number, but 70 of course here meaning an exorbitant amount, but simply to get people to try to understand. So the same way we say that the knowledge of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is simply like a drop in the ocean, being the knowledge of Allah. But this is a comparison just to try to get us to understand. But at the same time, the reality is that the knowledge of all the other prophets combined, actually all the rest of creation combined, is like a drop in the ocean compared to the knowledge of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so when they come and they inform him that we've come as messengers from Allah to inform you to leave, and that you must go, and none of you should look back, except your wife who will stay. She will be among the people. And they tell Lut alayhi salam this, as they're talking to him, that he knows. And so, the punishment, of course, that night, and one of the things that the wife of Lut alayhi salam did was that she told the people, these guests have come. And this was one of her weaknesses. This is one of her major sins, is that she would tell the outside world what was going on inside the household. And so she actually, in one narration, she put up some smoke so that people would come and look, and when they would come, they would see these young boys, and when they saw them, when these people saw these young, handsome men, they wanted them. And they're banging on the door of Lut alayhi salam, trying to break into his house and yelling, we want, give these guests to us so we can do with them whatever we please. And Lut alayhi salam is trying to plead with them and argue with them that, look, why are you doing this? And they would even challenge him, saying, you keep telling us about this punishment, so if that's the case, then have your Lord send the punishment now. And he's telling them, look, the punishment is coming if you don't deter from your way. It's already, it's on its way. So stop, change your ways, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have mercy upon you. But still, and he even says to them, he says that, look, these are my daughters, so you can marry my daughters, do something decent. And here, the mufassirin, or those who explain the wording in the Quran, they say here when he's saying daughters, he's saying as a general that the women of the community, because the women of the community are the daughters of the prophets, technically, they are his spiritual daughters. And so he's telling, look, there are women in here. You can marry the women. Why do you need to do this? And they keep arguing with him, banging, and to the extent that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Hijr, verse number 72, he starts off with the verse with La Amruka, which means I swear by you, O my beloved, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Innahum lafi sakaratihim ya'mahun. That they were intoxicated or they were drunk in their blindness. But just starting off with La Amruka, I swear by your life, oh by my beloved, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is how intoxicated they were in their sins, that they would not leave their way, even when the punishment is on its way. Eventually, the two angels, they left, and so there's no one left in the house, and finally these people leave. Lut al-Islam is instructed by these two angels that you and your family will need to get out in the darkness of the night, because when the morning time comes, the punishment will be here. And so they, as they were instructed, Lut al-Islam gathers his family. His wife says, no, I'm staying. And they leave. And he's behind all of them, and they're traveling in front of them. And as the instructions were, no one was to look back. Even as the punishment is coming, you don't look back. Because you don't want to be a witness to such a punishment or such a level of wrath from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was returning from Tabuk, as we mentioned before, he ordered the companions, when they were passing by the ruins of Thamud, that move very quickly. Don't stay here. Because bad places, again, where the punishment of Allah is coming, is not a place you want to be. You want to be where the mercy of Allah is coming. And this is why we go and visit the graves of the awliya Allah, the friends of Allah, because this is where His mercy is descending. And just like when Zakaria al-Islam, who was a prophet, when he saw the food coming down to Maryam al-Islam, who's not a prophet, he made dua for Yahya al-Islam right then. Because he knew, this is the mercy of Allah that is descending. And so they left, and then when the punishment came, Jibreel al-Islam took the whole city. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He says that we made the top portion of the city the bottom. He took the whole city on the tip of His wing and He flipped it over. And then baked stones were rained down upon them. This is the punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them. And again, the punishment never comes until things have become manifest, until it's clear as to what is right and what is not, and people still choose the wrong way. Lut al-Islam eventually left, and then he will eventually be buried when he passed, close to Ibrahim al-Islam. Ishaq al-Islam is born to Ibrahim al-Islam. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not mention many of the doings of Ishaq al-Islam. He's mentioned by name multiple times. His righteousness is mentioned. The fact that he is a prophet is mentioned multiple times, as well as Yaqub al-Islam, but as far as actions or what he did is not mentioned much. And unfortunately, there are many people who try to fill in the blanks and take narrations from Jewish scripture, but if you start analyzing it, you realize that this contradicts everything that we know about prophets in general. So we need to be careful with that. I'm going to end here today. I know this is short, but I just wanted to kind of make that transition over, because next time we'll start talking about Yusuf al-Islam, which will include the story of Yaqub al-Islam. And we'll go from there. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and guide us, and and fill our hearts with His love, and help us to understand all of these stories as they should be understood, and help us to see the direction that they're pointing in, which is the direction of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the azmat and the greatness and the honor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad and barak sallallahu alaihi. Oh Allah, guide us through the straight path and fill our hearts with your love and the love of your beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom they love, and keep us away from those things which displease you, and make it easy for us to do those things which please you, and give power and authority to those who are being oppressed, and protect them from the oppression, and everywhere in the world, wherever they are, whether it's in Kashmir or Palestine or Yemen or Sham or Africa or any other place, wherever people are being oppressed, in whatever way they are being oppressed, protect them and help them. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqi Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatihi ya arhamar rahimin.